it's quite obvious that's a systemic tactic to launder money. If I was to estimate, based on the amount of accounts I've seen of that nature, it would have to be millions and millions of dollars that is laundered every year.
Well, because people don't want to pay taxes. Like, duh. I mean, yeah, they don't want to pay taxes, and so they launder the money. That's what it's. Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah, it's not just for taxes. It is. I think that most people they do it either. Yeah, it's either for taxes. It's money from drugs. Yeah, you're right about that too. Sure, that's a good point.
Alone.
Now, it's one thing to be wrong and stupid, but it's a completely different story when we're talking about Asmongold levels of stupidity. Stupidity that literally is bordering being autistic at this point in time. I swear, Asmongold just grows stupider and stupider by the day, hidden in his echo chamber, hidden from the world, and surrounded only by yes men and banning anyone who dares to disagree with him. If you did not catch on what he just said, this is a shining example of how stupid Asmongold is on pretty much any take he makes nowadays. I find it funny how he can say so many different things, and most of the time what he says is the exact inverse of reality. So let us look at Asmongold's genius level IQ statement that people money launder to not pay taxes. It's hard to honestly be more wrong than this. Nowadays, the concept of money laundering can almost be considered a synonym of the idea that you want to pay taxes. Money laundering is done specifically with the intent of paying taxes, because if you pay taxes for the money you earn, that means that in essence that money most likely is legal, and that is the act of money laundering, taking illegal money that you got through illegal means and adding a tax to it, so now it seems legal and can be used freely further. You see, this is what I mean. Asmongold's take was literally the exact opposite of reality. But you know, not surprising that a complete moron like Asmongold did not know that, and with an absolute straight face, blatantly said, yeah, people money launder to pay less taxes. There is an interesting situation where you can do something similar to evade taxes. The way that companies avoid taxation, or I should more specifically say minimize taxation, because it's honestly pretty hard to avoid taxation for most companies, is pretty simple. Let's imagine you're a big company, let's say Amazon. That means that you most likely have a lot of subsidiaries, aka daughter companies, for example Twitch. In this case, the bigger company usually has a higher tax rate, aka a lower return on investment. Strictly speaking, they just have a lower profit margin because of the taxation they receive. But if you are the owner of Amazon and you have multiple companies working under it and you pretty much control all of them, and they are smaller companies, independent companies may I add, they get taxed probably less, because they're smaller and they need to be taxed less because that will allow them to grow faster, and it's good for the economy in general. As a big company owner, you can abuse this situation. I'm gonna give you an extremely oversimplified idea how this works, because in reality it's pretty finicky, but most companies do this to a certain extent, and most people don't even know it. Now let's imagine you're the owner of a company, and this company has a gross revenue of 10 million a year. And let's say that 9% of that 10 million is pure profit. And by the way, for those of you who do not know, 9% pure revenue from 10 mil is absolutely baller AF if we're talking about industries that are not internet activity based. And that 9% pure profit is obviously after taxes. How can we reduce these taxes? Well, there are some ways. Before this sum of money becomes pure profit, it can be used in some other ways. For example, since you're the owner of the big company and you own a smaller company, maybe that smaller company produces something that the big company could buy, then use, and then the small company actually is making the profit. And since the smaller company has different taxation clauses, it needs to pay less in taxes. That 9% pure profit the big company is making can be to a degree transferred to the smaller company, and you get your 20% extra boost because of smaller taxation. Now, admittedly, this is an extremely oversimplified situation, so keep that in mind. In essence, all of these schematics work in one way. You transfer money to the place where it will create the most profit via losing the least of its value. But Asmongold obviously did not mean absolutely any of this, because my example is extremely rare, finicky, and honestly there are just way easier ways to do this. In pure business terms, it's just the action of manipulating actives and passives in bookkeeping and writing things in the right position. You know what honestly scares me the most? Is the fact that there were so little people who called out Asmongold for being an idiot, for saying that people don't want taxation so they launder money. No, absolutely not. Even in the video on YouTube, there is one small comment where someone says that what Asmongold is saying is completely incorrect, and it has like 9 upvotes or some shit like that. Well, there are countless comments on this video who are just praising Asmongold for being a messiah genius level IQ god. It's honestly frightening how stupid people are becoming, and especially they are becoming more stupid because of people like Asmongold, who with a straight face will just spew things they themselves understand they have absolutely no clue about.